things. Number one, discipleship must be understood as a scriptural mandate. It's not an option to be considered, it's a command to be obeyed. We can't excuse ourselves and say, you know what, I'm just not a good discipler. That's like saying I'm not a good soul winner, so I don't have to do it. Okay? It is a command. It's not something to suggestion. We need to help other people grow. Number two, try to disciple every Christian, every single Christian, at least the first 4 lessons. And I'm talking about in specific to this particular program that we're using, the Foundation of Faith. Try to get every single Christian to go through the first 4 lessons. I have found that sometimes unsaved people who are Christians, they think they're Christians, we think they're Christians, and they go through understanding salvation and they say, you know, I'm not a Christian. I'm not saved. And that's happened several times, not every week, but we've had that happen many times where people they'll come to the discipleship lessons and they'll say, Pastor, can I talk to you afterwards? And I'll drill home. I'll say, and I'll kind of demonstrate that for you tomorrow morning, how I do a group session, how we do an individual session, and just kind of we'll kind of model that or demonstrate that. But going through understanding salvation, I try to say, you know, if by chance you're here today in class and you don't know for sure if you died you go to heaven, listen, before you leave today, Brother Paul, Miss Susan, someone's here to help you with that particular item. Look at number 3, if you would please. Understand that everyone will not take the entire journey with you. Still disciple people. We talked about that last time, and everybody's not going to take the journey with you. Some folks, in my opinion, if they get through 3 and they don't do the 4th one, I'm sad, but I'm glad they got through 3. You know, I just have to say, you know, I've got to take everything as a victory and keep working with them. I realize everybody's going to struggle, and some folks, they'll stop for a while, they'll pick up again, and they'll keep going, and they'll do great. I've seen that happen numerous times. Number 4, we must continue to emphasize discipleship. We reap a harvest where we sow an emphasis. We must continue to keep the pedal to the metal. If you're a pastor in here, I believe in, I don't know where I heard it, everything I say I've repeated, someone else said it and I just heard it and kept saying it. But I do believe that as a pastor you have, it's like a 1-2 punch, like a boxer. You have evangelism and edification, soul winning, discipleship. And you've got to keep on using, if you just do like this, and you only do soul winning, soul winning, soul winning, soul winning, you're going to be there for years and you're not going to have anyone to reproduce. You have new people getting saved. I have a friend of mine, I love him very much. And he'll have 500 people baptized in a year. And I've known him for 25 years. His church is still 75 people. You know? But it's because of this. He only is a soul winner. Soul win, soul win, another soul, another soul, another soul. And then I've talked to his converts, and sometimes they don't have a clue what happened. But that's something we got to be careful about. But then too, discipleship. And if you just disciple, but you're not winning people to Christ, you're going to run out of people to disciple. And you're going to go down deep and come up dry. Okay, so it has to be a continual thing. And the pastor's a captain of world evangelism. We've got to be the one out in front in helping that. And you reap a harvest where you sow an emphasis. So, and I don't know if I do it on purpose, but I think the church family would tell you, we talk about soul winning and people getting discipled on a regular basis. You know, we just have to keep it in front of the people. Boy, that's great. In discipleship this morning, I heard about this person that came to discipleship, or someone gets baptized, and they just finished up discipleship, and they're getting baptized, or they just got, and I'll just mention it. And then every 4 weeks, we have our certificates. Let's continue that if we can, please. Give you a little bit of information about that. And so you have to keep emphasizing soul winning. You just keep talking about people coming to know the Lord as their Savior. Let's look at the next one if we can, please. We're looking at number 5. Using certificates and recognizing accomplishment is vital to encouraging new believers. And do we have a picture of a certificate? I'll just say this to you. I don't think, I'm not terribly motivated personally by a piece of paper necessarily. I say that, but I have 5 of them hanging on my wall in my office. So I am motivated to some extent. However, I do believe giving them a certificate, and we have a certificate when they finish level 1, when they finish level 2, and level 3. Once again, accomplishment is incentive. Okay? And so When I was a pastor in Long Beach, now we do it every 5 weeks. Brother Abdel organizes, and we have anyone who finishes level 1, level 2, level 3. There's Grace, and Grace came to know the Lord recently. Michael got saved recently, and he worked for the railroad, and they're just a young couple. They have a little boy named Triton. These folks have been saved for a while, but they did the discipleship. They're new to our church, so they said, well, we're going to take discipleship and go through that. This is Vincent. Vincent came to us from California, Northern California. He came to know Christ as Savior. This is Julie, and she's been saved for a while, but she finished discipleship. So what we do is every 5 weeks we just we say the following people, and of course our auditorium is somewhat larger. When I was in Long Beach, I just had them stand up. I said, if you finish discipleship, I'm going to call your name, please stand. So they would stand. I'd have them stand there and say, this is Jill. Jill just finished discipleship. She did all 4 lessons, learned 8 verses. She was a great student. Let's give her a round of applause. Can we please? And then I would have someone, would you take the certificate back to Jill? Okay. Sometimes you can bring them. Now I'm telling you, people will bring their mother, their husband, their wife, their kids to be recognized publicly. And so if our church was smaller, I would probably bring them up front and just take a picture of them and say, why don't you come up here if you would please, and give each of them that, you could do it. In Long Beach, I didn't do it every 5 weeks. I did it every time someone finished. If someone finished a lesson, then on that Sunday, my secretary would say, we got 2 people finished. I said, wonderful. It takes me a minute in the service. We were glad to welcome our visitors. Now we have a couple people to honor today. And right over here in this section, we have Jimmy Talon. Jimmy just finished level 2, and we're so proud of Jimmy. He's worked hard, and he has been discipling with Brother Gill. He and Brother Gill have been working together, and they've worked hard. Brother Gill, stand if you would, please. Thank you for taking the time to disciple. Jimmy's really enjoyed it. He's done a great job. Let's give him a round of applause, can we? And then we clap, and then have someone take that too. And then we have someone finish 11-1. And you know what that does? It keeps that in front of your people. And then people are like, I know I need to take that class. The pastor has that class. I want to take that class. Just the incentive of finishing can be an accomplishment as well. It can be helpful. Any question about that? And these are available. You can make your own if you want. If you'd rather make your own, you're welcome to. Or you can order them. They're generic, so they don't have our church name on them. But you can just order them. This is level 1, level 2, level 3, whatever you think is best. It's certainly fine. I do think don't not do that. If you'll do that, you're going to find you'll build in a lot more interest in that. And then when you put it in front of the people, and then folks will come, and you'll get to preach to unsaved dads who come because their daughter finished, or you'll get to preach to some folks that come just for that special day. We're going to have a graduation next week. It'll be a great time to bring someone, and they're going to honor you. And sometimes in a smaller church, you can do that even more effectively than we can do it when we have the following people, please stand. Let's give them all a round of applause. You can pick up your certificate after the service with Pastor, and we'll take a picture if you want one. So these ones that they're doing are people who in the last 4 or 5 weeks who've done that, and we just take a quick picture with them. You don't have to do that, but that's something that people are kind of used to, and it just gives a photo. We take a picture of it on an iPhone, and then we email it to them. And then we used to make a picture for them if they wanted one. If they want one, we'll make a picture for them and do it. I tell you, when I go visiting people's homes, I see the certificates on their walls, framed, put up there. They finished it. It's big. It's big to them. And I think we need to understand that that's something to some folks. They need a certificate, a diploma, a degree does not give you an education. It just gives you credibility, okay? Someone beside yourself said you finished something, and a piece of paper tells us that. So oftentimes for some people, if you don't do it with that incentive, you can still do it. It doesn't have to have a piece of paper, but it does incentivize, and it gives you opportunities. Once again, these are not biblical methods. These are just practical advice. Take it or leave it. Number 6, level 1 helps us to instruct, integrate, and evaluate those who are faithful and worthy of continued investment. And I want us to put an asterisk there. We'll come back to that. I hope you'll have some questions about that, or I can explain some things there. And look at those 3 words. Instruct, that's just teach. Integrate, what do you think that means? And it gives you a connection with them. It's a connection. Now, if you spend 4 lessons with them, you're going to learn something about them. You'll learn something about them. They'll give you a chance to ask questions. get to know them. And now you have information about them that can help you know what they can do further, when you can go visit them. And they're getting to know you in the early stages of their Christian life. I think is very helpful as well. And then, of course, you evaluate. Number 7, level 1 is done mostly in a classroom setting. I've shared that with you. Level 1 is in a classroom setting. Level 2 and 3 are done more so on a one-on-one setting, creating a go-to Christian and mentor to help the new believer. Level 2 and 3, and it gives them a Christian and a mentor. Here's what I think has been a really blessing to me is if I can get someone through level 1 and I can find, okay, David, you and Bob, I want you guys to, I'll say to David, Bob is new. He just finished level 4 or level 1. He's done a great job. Dave, would you meet him? I think you guys are going to mesh together fairly good. Find out a time where you can work on discipleship, okay? And they'll do level 2 that way. Now, some of them will like each other so much they'll keep going level 3. But if I had my choice, I'd say, James, why don't you help Bob through level 3? Because now he's connected. He's got phone numbers of 2 people in the church, and he's got a bond there. Now, he'll probably gravitate to one or the other, and that's okay. But if he has a problem, he's not calling me. He's going to call him. If he's having difficulties, he can call me, and I'm glad to do it, but you're one. But if you can get a network of people to work with them, then they have another Christian they can go to. And you know what will happen in the process of David discipling Bob? Who else grows besides Bob? Whoever does the teaching does the learning. And I remember I listened to thousands of messages before I was 32 years old and became a pastor. I'd preached 7 times in my entire life when I became a pastor in First Baptist Church of Long Beach, or candidated 8th and 9th time. But I'm telling you one thing, that in a church service when I preach school chapels and things like that, but a church service. But I will say this, that I learned more Bible my first year of preaching the Bible than I did my other 32 years listening to it preached. When I can have you teach me the book of James, and I'll learn a few things. But if I teach the book of James, I'll learn a lot more. I was talking to Brother Abdel. He teaches Old Testament survey, New Testament survey. He's here with us today. And one of the things I appreciate about that is teaching through the Old Testament gives you a better grasp of the Old Testament. Imagine if we even today were to say, can you give me a theme of every book of the Old Testament? Most of us couldn't do that by heart, but I bet he can. Why? Because he teaches it every year. And by teaching, you learn it. And whoever's teaching the lesson, it absorbs much faster. I think I might share that in just a moment. But whenever we do 2 and 3, we're trying to create a go-to person, someone that can help them in the early stages of their life and mentor them one-on-one in the trenches of life. Number 9, whoever does the teaching does the learning. That is the statement I want to give you. Discipleship strengthens and matures disciplers significantly. Whoever does the teaching will do the learning. And then help those who are discipled to try to disciple others as able. When someone finishes discipleship and if they've done 20 lessons with a brother or sister in Christ, okay, and you have a brand new bus child or a brand new person that got saved or a teenager, if you could get that person to walk them through it in their early stages, say, listen, this guy's already finished level 1, would you take him through the next several lessons? Then I think you're going to find that person will grow much more rapidly, and he gets a thinking, he starts saying, that person's important, I'm important to them, and they need me, and they'll stay together on that situation. Okay, so keep that paper front and center. We'll come back to a couple of those thoughts, and I hope to maybe clarify a few things with you. We're glad to have you. We're glad to have those watching by way of online. We have numbers of folks who chose to, they weren't able to come, but they're watching online. I'm glad that can be a help and a blessing to them as well.
About the Bible memory, my wife came up with this and has been effective for us. If you'll help them, people especially that are struggling, of course, help them with the card to write the verse on, but instead of writing the whole word, write the first letter of every word. Instead of for God so loved the world, FG, what's the first letter? FGSLTW. And then that helps them actually with the memory, and sometimes if they'll just look at those letters and say the verse, we'll even go ahead and accept that because that's the best they're going to do. There's also a memory app called Verses. That's just the name of the app, Verses. It's a blue circle with a little green half circle inside of it. And that's a really good one for people that like the technology and things. And my wife and I use it just for our own personal Bible memory. It kind of makes it into a game to memorize the Bible verses. Another thing I've done that I felt like is helpful is when I'm ready to teach a lesson, look through it and come up with, and not a whole lot because you don't have time for a whole lot of this, but one or two personal illustrations of sometimes a deeply spiritual, especially if it's just a one-on-one deeply spiritual illustration from my own life about the Holy Spirit speaking to me when we're going through that lesson or something of that nature. But sometimes just a little bit about my family. They want to know about you. They want to know about your family. They want to learn what your life is like. What does it look like to be a Christian on a regular basis? We get a lot of people through. Their life is very chaotic, and they don't know how to order a life to even get to Sunday school on time, much less to read their Bible on a regular basis. So things like that you can put in that help them understand the truth that you're trying to get across, but also what it looks like on a day-to-day basis to be a Christian with a family and attend church and have a dog and a wife and things like that. So hopefully that's helpful to you.